Welcome to BizTech's CEO Conversation Show. Our guest for today is Mohd Farid Bin Kamarudin. He's the Chief Executive Officer of RHB Islamic International Asset Management Berhad, which is based in Malaysia. Now, to tell us more, Farid, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for having me at this platform.
Now, Farid, for a start, give us an overview of RHB's asset management business and your positioning in the market.
Sure. Brian, if you look at within RHB Banking Group, there are three entities within the group that are involved in asset management business. So these entities are RHB Asset Management, Malaysia, RHB Islamic International Asset Management. These two entities are based in Malaysia, and we have one more entity called RHB Asset Management Pte Limited, and this entity is based in Singapore. So all these three entities combined, they form Group Asset Management. So we believe our group is one of the leading asset manager in Malaysia. We provide innovative end-to-end financial solutions covering both conventional and Islamic, serving multiple asset classes and countries. In terms of location, as mentioned earlier, we are of course located in Malaysia as well as in Singapore. But in terms of our products, in terms of what we cover and what we serve our clients, it is not only a Malaysian strategy. It is not only Asian strategy. We try our best to make sure that our products cover not only Malaysia, but also some global strategy. And in terms of when we talk about client segment, Brian, again, our product over the years, we ensure that it covers all important client segments, from the mass affluent, all the way up to the ultra high net worth. Yeah.
Now, how do you differentiate yourself from other asset management companies? Because it's a very competitive space. Yep. You not only have to now contend with traditional players in terms of products and services, you also now have fintechs invading your space.
Sure. At RHB Group Asset Management, as a company, myself and the management, we strongly believe that product differentiation is key for our business. It is therefore very critical and very important that for us, we are able to offer innovative products designed to take advantage of market trends and development that suit the investment needs and goals of our clients. For instance, just to give you an example, we are the first company in Malaysia, asset management company, that launched the first Sharia-compliant global equity that focuses on Bisruptor theme. So this is something that we launched back in 2021, Brian. So this is just to share with you, as an asset management company, it is important that we be ahead of the curve in terms of product development, and we believe here at RHB that is something that we position ourselves.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your Malaysia's first, that Sharia-compliant Sustainable Technology Fund.
So in terms of the Sharia Sustainable Technology Fund, as mentioned earlier, this is something that we launched back in 2021. Of course, that was, if you can recall, in a way at the middle of the COVID period, where in terms of marketing, it was a bit of challenging for us. But as I mentioned earlier, the fact that this is something new to the market in terms of product strategy, we were able to convince our partners, namely our distributors, as well as our own internal salespeople in terms of selling this fund. And I think during this period, we were able to raise quite a sizable AUM, Brian. And at the peak of it, in terms of AUM, we were able to raise up to around 700 million, Brian. So that is what I meant when I say, if you've got the right product, if you got the right strategy, clearly it is important that so that we are able to actually raise the right size in terms of AUM. Yeah.
So, Farid, I want to, since you're talking about AUM,
sure.
What's the size of your overall business right now in terms of AUMs at RHB Asset Management?
In terms of size, when we look at group asset management, in total, roughly we have around 50 billion ringgit. So this covers both conventional as well as Islamic, Brian.
And what is the split like in terms of conventional and Islamic?
Islamic represents around 20% versus conventional. But of course, as I think one of the things that, or one of the opportunities that we feel is that Islamic has a lot of potential. It has a lot of opportunities, especially when we talk about in terms of product diversification. Clearly now, if you look at the market, especially when you survey what are the available products at the market, conventional products are clearly have outpaced Islamic products. And this is what I meant when I say there are opportunities, because there are gaps that I feel that we can close in terms of Sharia compliant products.
Okay, could you share some examples of perhaps, as you mentioned, some of the gaps that you could close that with the launch of new Islamic products?
I think, for example, a good example is, of course, the fund that I mentioned earlier, and which is RHBI Sustainable Global Disruptor Fund. So, of course, clearly from the name itself, you can sense that this is quite thematic in nature. And of course, when you compare to the conventional side, there are a lot more thematic funds out there. So that is why when I say that, we've got gaps to fill, and this is a good example of that, where the conventional side is actually far ahead in terms of some of the thematic products. We can start to build our Islamic side. And at RHB Asset Management, we are very focused, we are very clear. This is a space that we really want to fill. And on top of that, another areas where we strongly feel there is opportunity is actually on the is ESG or sustainability. And as you know, this is something that I think for us in Malaysia, it is relatively new in a way, because I think we only started really coming out with a lot more ESG products in the market back in 2020, 2021. And I am happy to share with you that in terms of ESG products, I believe RHB Asset Management is actually leading this space, where at this point in time, we already have 9 ESG products, including the one that I have mentioned earlier. Yeah.
So if you've got 9, that's a good sort of product number to have. What is so on the supply side, you are catering to gaps in the market. Yes. What is the response like from the retail investor in terms of products like this?
Yes, I think very good question, Brian. In terms of the response coming from the retail market, it has been pretty good, if I can say that. In fact, as I have shared with you earlier, when we launched our RHBI Global Sustainable Disruptor Fund, we were able to raise, I think at the peak, around 700 million ringgit in terms of AUM. But of course, I think I have also to admit that demand is also subject to market condition. Yeah. And, when we have a situation where the investment backdrop is very challenging, as what we're seeing now, because of, a lot of noises that we are hearing, for example, coming from the geopolitical tension in Europe, the relationship between the US and as well as in China, and the tightening of monetary policy, demand could be impacted by that. But I think the messaging that we are hearing from the ground, from the market, is that it is a product that clients are looking for, especially from the institutional side as well.
Okay, and you brought up quite a few interesting points, Farid.
Yeah.
Now, we are just in the second half of 2023.
Yeah.
You're a relatively, you were an acting CEO for a while. You're now CEO.
Yep.
What's your strategy for the business in the next 12 to 18 months?
Wow, that's a very challenging question. I think for me, it is very clear from the context of where we want to position the business. And again, this is something that at the very beginning is something that I have shared earlier. We, from our side, we would want to be with all the client segments. So as mentioned earlier, from the low of the mass market all the way to ultra high net worth. Okay, that I think is very clear in terms of how we want to position our business. Having said that, I think what is also important to really understand in the long run, which part of the business I feel or the team feel will really support our business in the long run. And to answer that is, I think the focus will be very much on the retail business, because clearly retail business would be able to provide that additional margin versus the institutional and corporate business. But as I mentioned earlier, demand from retail is very much subjected to, again, the market backdrop, investment backdrop, which affects the sentiment of retail investors. So, for example, this year, although our intention is to really focus on retail business, what we are seeing in reality is the support or the business are a lot more coming from the corporate side. So that is why at any point in time, in terms of positioning, we want to be at the every client segment. But we are very flexible in that sense that if, for example, we can see demand coming from corporate, clearly we would be attacking that demand, coming up with new products for our institutional business. But we are also ready for the retail side once the market come back, once the investor sentiment improve. So in a way, again, maybe if I can repeat, in terms of focus, we would be focusing more on the retail side. But if the backdrop change, we need to be quick in terms of changing the business to be in line with where the demand is.
Now, Farid, how about your targets for 2023, 2024? What sort of growth are you looking for in 2023, 2024?
Yeah, definitely. I think for 23, 2024, I think it is important for me that hopefully we would see a better market. I think clearly after a couple of years seeing in a way a very challenging market, it would be good. Not only for an asset management company, but for our clients, for our investors, that we see some improvement or some recovery in the market. That will clearly help the sentiment of our retail investors. So if we are able to see that, I think therefore we would be able to come up with a lot more products to cater for the demand for our clients. Again, I think ESG is a space that we have our targets to achieve, and we will continue to launch more products on the ESG space. I think, Brian, one of the more interesting points to highlight is this. When we look at our normal product, we already have a varieties of strategy, from Islamic, conventional, you got equities, fixed income, balance, regional. But when we talk about ESG, at this point in time, we don't have that many strategy. Maybe we have only a Malaysian equity strategy, ESG, or maybe we only have regional. There are a lot more ESG strategies that we can come out, and clearly this is something that we want to do in 2023 and 2024. And hopefully, as I said earlier, the market sentiment is better, market backdrop is better. Therefore, everybody would be able to enjoy the fruits of all these new products.
Farid, it's been an interesting conversation. Thanks for enlightening us on this. But before we leave, any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think for me, it is one of the things that I feel is very important is when we look at this market, this industry, I think it is quite a challenging industry. And one of the main challenge for this industry is actually in terms of retaining talent. So one of the things that I would want to maybe shout out to those listeners is that there is a talent shortage in this in asset management industry, and clearly I think this is an industry that have a future. It is growing, especially in Malaysia, and we would like to see a lot more participants, a lot more players, and a lot more individuals out there coming to this industry and to be able to grow their career and grow their talent. So this is something that maybe I can use this opportunity to actually shout out to those listeners, to your listeners, Brian.
Now, Farid, it's been a great conversation. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you very much.
I'm Brian Fernandez, and we've been speaking to Mohd Farid Bin Kamarudin. He's the Chief Executive Officer of RHB Islamic International Asset Management Berhad on BizTech's CEO Conversation Show. This interview will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
Thanks, Brian.